Welcome to Game On, the show that goes all around the English Premier League, highlighting some of the most interesting events and, talks about, some of the exciting matches that we've had in the Premier League. My name is Eddie Ekwo, and I'm not alone today. I am, with my great friends, Femi, also on the call. Femi, welcome to the show.
Wow, thank you so much, Eddie. What an amazing feeling. There was no Premier League at the weekend. We're back again, so absolutely buzzing. Great to be back, and I'm sure everyone is also in good spirits. Although, of course, we have to tender, we really have to think, of course, about the very tough times we're in. So, we want to say our best wishes, our thoughts, and our prayers are with the royal family, and of course the entire country at this time. But what an opportunity to actually really, really showcase our love and respect for Her Majesty the Queen. So, and of course, a lot of that has been done during the week as well. But there's no better place than the Premier League to actually take control because UEFA is in charge of European football, and but the Premier League is where we get to celebrate our home. So, looking forward to a brilliant weekend ahead, Eddie.
Absolutely, and some great words to be echoed there. Of course, I've got my other sidekick, all the way in the United States, Festus. Welcome to the show.
Hello, guys. It's good to be back. I really missed you guys last week. And you guys really did good. I watched your recordings and I was so impressed. Um, I also want to use this opportunity to commiserate with all my British fellows for the death of our mama. We call her our mama. She's the mama of the world. She was a great woman, and she will be greatly missed. May her soul continue to rest in peace. Welcome, fans. You're in for a wonderful ride. This is Game On, and thanks for always being with us. Always. Thank you.
Absolutely, and I think a time for reflection, for all of us in the United Kingdom, as we're paying our last respects, to Her Majesty. At the same time, we are also celebrating, the great life that she's lived, the legacy that she's left behind, and of course, looking forward to the monarchy with the king. So, guys, we didn't have Premier League last weekend, and it was of course for very good reasons. But the Premiership is back this weekend, and we've got some incredible games that we want to talk about. Some really exciting things. But in football, things have been happening, and obviously, last week we talked about the sacking of Tuchel, and so that's something that Chelsea fans are all coming to terms with. And so we're going to start with Chelsea, right off because Chelsea have had what you can almost say a unstable start to the Premiership campaign. We don't know what sort of Chelsea you're going to get in each game, and we've just seen what they've done in the Champions League, and but what's got everyone talking is what the owner has been talking about recently. So if you've been listening to the news, Chelsea obviously has Todd Boehly. He's an American owner and that has come into the Premier League, and we do have quite a number of American owners in the Premiership as well. You look at the likes of Liverpool, Arsenal. They all have American owners, and he said something about having an all-star game in the Premier League where the North versus the South goes against each other. And obviously, this has created a lot of controversy. So I'm really interested to know your thoughts, about this. Would a North versus South, game be anything that would have any interest in the Premier League? Or, is there anything to any merit, to us, even considering this suggestion, or we're just okay as we are? So I'm going to start with you, FaZe, because he's an American, you're in the United States, so maybe you have an understanding about what he's talking about. What do you think about this North versus South?
I think clearly he's in a dreamland. And why I say that is he I think he's mixing up with the culture. Clearly, it's an American thing. Both basketball, both the American football. You always have the All-Star team where at times you could be Southern Conference in basketball. The other place it could be North versus South. So it depends on which of the game you're looking at. So it's an American culture, and clearly being an American, he's looking at bringing such culture to the English world, but clearly I don't think it will work. One, there's always been a controversy when we say we pick our first 11, even with the FIFA 11, there's always a whole lot of contention. This guy is supposed to be here. Why would this guy not here? So I think it will create a lot of controversy at the end of the day. So who picks who? Who picks the players? Who picks North 11, South 11, who is to play, who is not to play, who will be the coach, and who will play at the end of the day? At the end of the day, we just cause so much controversy. I don't think we need that seriously. It would be a form of distraction. And when will it be played also? Those are some of the questions that should be asked. Is it in the thick of the Premiership? Is it after the Premiership? Is it after the league matches? Everybody wants to protect their players. There's a whole lot of games to be played. You have like 3 competition. The FA, the Carling Cup is running. Some of them are playing the Premiership, the Europa League, the Champions League, and you now want to fit in this. When will it come in? At which point will it be played? Once the league is over, Champions League is over, everybody wants to go on vacation, give their players some time to rest. And remember, they still have the national team's duties to attend to. So he is not seeing all this. He is looking at the basketball or the American football culture where they play normal league. At the end of the year, they play the All-Star and they end it. He is not seeing the congested fixtures in the Premiership. So I don't think it will work. And I see managers and maybe owners coming against it, because also we need to look, what is the commercial value of this? What does it generate? Even the charity cup, remember, it is recently that teams started taking it serious. Before, nobody takes that too serious, but because of the rivalry is making them take the charity cup, which commences the league. The rivalry is making it more serious now. So I just don't see the importance of it, and I don't see the relevance of it. For me, I'm not in support of it.
Yeah, so you talked on a couple of things, the commercial elements of it, and he did actually talk about, the potential money that can come, from such a game, making reference to the MLB and, how they were able to raise 200 million, within the games as well. So I'm going to go to Femi because, the heart of, any game is about the fans, and, so you're talking about, 6 teams that have fans that are very, very passionate, about their teams. Is there some merit? Because he also mentioned that perhaps there should be a competition for the bottom 4 teams. And, in my head, I'm sort of thinking, how do you want to do that? Is it before they get relegated, they play the competition as like, their way of, signing out of the Premier League, or to go down to the Championship?
Where is the motivation?
So Femi, how do you see this landing with fans? As a fan, would you want to go and watch a game that has Harry Kane, and Bukayo Saka? And of course, it's not the English team, but having Harry Kane, Bukayo Saka, with Mitrovic in the starting lineup.
I mean, I totally understand Faze's thoughts. In terms of, I think the biggest hurdle to cross is congestion, the fixture congestion in England. But I also think the guy is onto something amazing financially. And not just the financials. If you look at the way England is divided, I'm sure you will know we're almost divided right the middle between the South and the North, isn't it? You might struggle a bit with the Midlands. So teams like Leicester, Aston Villa trying to make up their mind, see if they're going to join up with the South. They're going to join up with the likes of Manchester City, Man United, Newcastle, all the teams up north. But what an idea, man. What an absolutely brilliant idea. Because if you think of Man City, Man United, think of Newcastle, think of all the teams down north. I mean, you used to have the likes of Bolton Wanderers, Wigan Athletic, all the teams that are all City, so many teams up there in the north. Sunderland were massive at some point as well, and there's still a lot of them there. Imagine that you could probably get the Midlands teams to join in with them, and then all the way from Luton down the just a little down the M1 back into London. So maybe your favorite city in the world, Reading. Someday they might get promoted into the Premier League, and you've got Reading teaming up with, Arsenal. And you know how the South is like. I mean, the London teams are very proud. We always talk about keeping the Premier League, and the Northern teams have won the Premier League a lot of the time recently as well. So if you think of Liverpool, Man United, and Man City, those three teams, and Newcastle are becoming a huge force now, and the Everton as well are there. So this is onto something, trust me. And Bournemouth can also, they will be among the South Coast teams from Southampton into London. The appetite will be massive. The appetite will be massive, and you could get not necessarily a retired coach, or you could get the likes of Roy Hodgson, someone who's known the game so well, someone who can bring the players together. Sir Alex could come out of retirement for a one-gamer. You could get Arsene Wenger to manage the southern team, Sir Alex to manage the northern team. I think he's onto something amazing. The appetite would be huge. You could have the playoffs. Maybe have two games, one up in Manchester, the other up in London. And maybe FaZe does not understand how we fight to death over the South and North divide, just like they have in the US. So he's on to something. That's the bit I can say. But if you can find time for it, there's money in there. The sponsorship will be out of this world, and the players will kill to get into that team. And you could say you talked about for each position, it's not difficult finding the parameters, the criteria for fulfilling that,
I think it will be difficult for me. No,
I agree.
What you say?
I agree. But everything else, trust me, the only problem you're going to have is just the fixture congestion. In England,
don't we have games like that already? I mean, we have charity games that happen,
the charity game made the champion of EPL against maybe the FA Cup. But I understand what this guy is trying to say. He's looking at the commercial thoroughly. But I am saying this is where the controversy will come. Who picks the players in the north and who picks the players in the south? Who will be saddled with that responsibility without being biased? You're talking about Alex Ferguson. Now, you give like an Alex Ferguson, coming out coaching, Wenger coming out coaching. Now, if an Alex Ferguson is going to coach, who picks the players? We clearly know that if we're talking of the north now, the cities and the Man U, you clearly pick close to 8 players of cities to start that game, and maybe.
Let me ask you a question. You're a big fantasy football fan, aren't you?
Yeah.
Who picks your team for you?
I do.
Because there you go. So the fans could pick it. The fans could pick the best teams. Yeah. So there's so many avenues for it.
You're saying that we should bring what we do in fantasy, which is effectively picking players from different teams.
Yeah, so you can't have more than 2
I'm not biased because I need to score points, Femi. But I am talking of fans will be biased. Remember, most times when you do anything, Arsenal wins most in social media. Why? Because
Can I ask you a question? How about you say for the teams, you can't choose more than 1 player or 2 per team or for a particular position? There are ways you can work it out. You see, the
superstars in that region be represented when you limit that. This is the controversy I'm throwing to you. City can confidently play for the whole of the North because of that team.
Not necessarily, though, because if you have Haaland up top, you don't necessarily have to have any other City player. Possibly, you could have. I think the only other person who automatically gets in will probably be Kevin De Bruyne. Anyone else in the City team, you can always replicate with someone else. Ederson is great, but you've got Alisson at Liverpool down the road.
Okay,
so is that not good enough?
Okay, maybe if you want to cut controversy, you can say now each team can present more than 3 players. Now you're then at the end of the day, you will not get a good quality representation of that region. You just want to do equal representation, but not necessarily the quality, because some teams.
No, top quality. Newcastle have some amazing, and if you look at even, they say all stars. They didn't say every team. So all stars. So the biggest stars in the teams that are doing well. But of course, let's say, look at London. We had Mitrovic, who has been absolutely flying this season. He could get into the all-stars team because this is a star this season. Not really, you probably not pick anybody from Fulham, but suddenly he gets a chance, Mitrovic, to play in an all-star team.
That is going to cause a lot of controversy to pick those players. Can we agree?
There's controversy in the United States as well. In fact, when you're picking the national team, there is controversy, isn't there? So what do you think?
Yeah, even in the US, when they are doing the All-Stars, you see a lot of players fighting that I should have been in the All-Stars when they pick it. But
you got a chance next season.
And that is picked by, I think the commission picks that. Now the question is, who picks this if we're going to do this?
And that's something you can constitute. The moment you shut an idea out, then you don't have a way for it, do you? But the moment you welcome the idea, Eddie, I'm sure you can start to discuss it. And FaZe will jump on a plane to come and see the game. In fact, we'll be inviting you to come and see it, actually.
Okay.
And we might play it in the United States. So
I think the guy is looking at the money
in the US anyway.
So, I mean, listen, right? We're always talking about innovation, spicing of the Premier League, and I mean, you can't always throw everything out completely, because sometimes the way that we receive things might just be the fact that it's coming from a new owner that has just come into the league, and questions could be asked. What do you know about the league? You've barely just gotten in, and you want to start changing things. So there might be, it might be a poor timing to even start considering that, especially when, the fixture compilations. Exactly. And we're going to talk about that in a second, because actually that's a great segue, because, the World Cup, this year is happening in November, December. And, this is usually, when teams get settled in the Premier League, the table starts to shape up. You start to know the team that would be competing for things. Usually you have this team that surprises everybody, and wins a lot of games in the first 10 games, and they are up there in the table. And then by this time, teams start to find, where they are. The mid-table teams go down to the mid-table. Those that are going to be fighting for relegation start to approach the trapdoor, and then you start having the early contenders for top four Premier League title. So we've got the World Cup. Now there are 16 fixtures that are happening now until the weekend of the 12th of November. When the Premiership breaks for 6 weeks to then resume on Boxing Day. So I just want to get your thoughts, because we're fast approaching this time, and how does this festival impact the Premier League in terms of the momentum that has been built up until that time. So I'm going to start with you, Femi, because clearly players as it approaches the World Cup, you can almost say that some players will be considering their place in the World Cup squad, whether they're going to get injured before then, whether they're going to get selected. I'm sure that countries are going to start announcing the final team, to go to the World Cup, maybe as early as next month. And so, how does this affect the competitive nature of the Premier League?
I mean, it's always going to have an impact. Whether negative, you can't measure yet. The only downside is the more football you play, the more chances of you getting injured. And the more regular you are in the team as well, the more likely it is you're going to get injured. You could get injured in training anyway. But for me, I think it's the wrong timing. That's the reality. You shouldn't be putting a World Cup in the middle of a European football season. That's just, the timing is incredibly off. But it's here, and it's the greatest show on earth. I think the Olympics is the next thing you can place next to the World Cup. So we're going to enjoy it. It remains to be seen when everybody comes back. If imagine you've just won the World Cup and now you have to play on the 26th of December. Do you really fancy that? You're in celebratory mode. So the impact is going to be really, really, I mean, some players are going to come back very disappointed as well. I've been probably lost out in the second round or whatever it is. So you get a holiday, even though you're disappointed. That's even a plus for you. So by the time you're back, you've had enough time to recharge your batteries. But if you go all the way to the semifinals or the final, there comes the problem. So for me, I suppose it should never have happened in the first place in the middle of the World Cup. I mean, of the season. But it's happened because of the continent hosting it. And I'm here open to every continent having a taste of what the World Cup is like. So, and the times and seasons around the world are totally different. So yeah, it doesn't happen every year, will not happen every week or every month. So let's welcome it, let's enjoy it. But genuinely, as you can tell, it remains to be seen what the impact will be for the players when they return.
So it's here to stay. And, I mean, nobody complains about football, right? When we're in the off season, we're sort of saying we can't wait for the Premier League to start. We can't wait for football to start, and now we're going to have to, be enjoying all the different varieties of football, all the way from, Premiership games, Cup games, and now we're having international. So I want to actually focus on, an element to this because, leading up to the actual World Cup date when the Premier League actually terminates, there have been conversations about the types of games, that are supposed to happen, before the actual World Cup. So people have said that no big games, should be happening, like maybe a Man City, Chelsea, a Liverpool, Arsenal playing before then. But now we've had some games postponed. Obviously now we need to sort of fix those games somehow into the calendar. So Faith, how do you see this, really working? How do we fix those games, that, and we want to maintain that, competitive nature and also not have the big teams playing. Already we've got, Liverpool and Chelsea games that have been cancelled, this weekend. Now that needs to be rescheduled, at a point in time. So how do you see this being, managed going forward?
Eddie, for me, the World Cup that was given to Qatar shouldn't have happened in the first place. I'm sorry to say it was. I don't know why it was done because it has actually disrupted a lot of things. If they want the continent to host it, they have so many other countries that could take up that stuff. If they really like in the case of Africa was given, South Africa took it. If they want the continent to host it, a lot of people are there to host it. If they want somebody from the Middle East, give it. But these are disrupted football all over the world. It's not the same. Just like what Femi said, you can't be playing a major tournament in the middle of an ongoing season, because like what you said now, a whole lot of fixtures, disruptions, things normally that shouldn't have been done. They are trying to create way to see how they could accommodate the World Cup coming. Now, between the disruptors of matches, it has to be fixed. For me, I think what should happen here at this point is those considerations to the World Cup should no longer be done. When they have availability in terms of time or dates, they should go ahead and fix those matches, because you cannot drop the quality of the EPL or any other league. You cannot drop the quality by trying to shift those matches before the World Cup. You can't do that because remember, this is a brand also which has been built over the years. FIFA is in charge of World Cup, so other associations or other countries cannot, reduce the quality of their brand, which is their leagues. They cannot do that because they are trying to accommodate FIFA's competition. They made a mess. They should find a way to handle it. For me, the EPL or any other league should go ahead and fix their matches, and whatever happens to any players, well, that is their own problem. To me, it's tough luck. And like you said, I know most players will want to play safe. They want to manage the situation because everybody wants to play in the World Cup. I think they are professionals. This is now lies to the clubs to ensure that they talk to their players to let them know that we cannot lose points. You have to give in your best. You have to do your best at each point, at each game, and make sure you get all the 3 points. And after that, if you're okay, you go to the World Cup, you do well, all well and good. But we all know that injuries must always come. There will be injuries before the World Cup. There will be injuries during the World Cup. Most players will come back with injuries, and which will affect the league. So it's just a total mess for me. At the end of it,
but other teams, because the Premier League is made up of 20 teams, and there are lots of teams that don't have people that are going to the World Cup, right? So for those people, there's got to be some positives that they are looking at, right? Because I mean, obviously, it's not just the Premier League that this impacts. Even in the Spanish league, they're also breaking as well for the World Cup, and maybe the Spanish league they're not actually returning, until the end of December. Now, we've always talked about this winter break, that other European clubs, enjoy, and we don't enjoy in the Premier League. Could this be, the beginning of opening those conversations about a winter break? Because I mean, there are teams that don't have anyone going to the World Cup, and potentially they're on a winter break. So I mean, surely there has to be some positives that is even coming from this. Perhaps maybe the trial of a winter break, and to see whether that actually impacts the Premier League or not.
Yeah, of course, 100%. Everything has a plus and of course a minus. Everything has a positive and a negative. And for the teams that are possibly down the bottom, time to get away on a little holiday, maybe have a little break. And of course, sometimes some of the players have a camp. And some of the teams, they have a camp, take the players on. It's an opportunity to actually drill some of your ideas into the players if you're a coach, because the players get paid. They're not going to have the entire time off. They can keep them back for some training. It's just not going to be as regular as you probably do it in the heat of a Premier League season. So what an opportunity, because if you let them go, they will return on fit. It's like you're starting preseason again. So got to keep them involved. Games behind closed doors between clubs, as you would know. Some national teams who are not going as well could also be invited to play some behind closed doors games. So I think it's an opportunity for some of the teams to actually really bring their players and especially for the coaches to bring their ideas into the heads of the players. The bigger teams are going to suffer because they're the ones who would send their players across every continent, if you're from Brazil, look how long it takes to go from Europe to Brazil. And you have to release the players beforehand as well. So it's not like they're going to go a
14 days before the competition.
Yeah.
Because they've got to come together and train. So, yeah, the impact is huge.
But I mean, people could say, that, listen, you now have 5 substitutions, right? So, you've got players going to the World Cup. They're going to come back. You have the big team. We're talking about the big teams now. They've got a big squad. They can actually change their whole lineup, at halftime, and there would be no, impact, to it. So, if I'm in, the so-called smaller clubs, I'll be like, what are you guys complaining about? There are 5 subs. You guys can change, Haaland, and bring up, De Bruyne from the bench. You can change, Grealish, bring up Foden. So people are thinking, well, Liverpool, you take off Firmino, you bring in Nunes. You take off Nunes, you bring in Jota. You take off, Jota, you bring in Salah. I mean, you're thinking, well, what's the problem here?
There's still a problem, Eddie, and the problem here is, especially in Premiership, the income sharing differences is not that much from the even the relegated team to the team that won it. The sharing formula is not that great compared to what is obtainable in the Spanish league. So they have the right to complain because those same funds, the last squad you're talking about, they maintain those players, they maintain a whole lot of us, they do a whole lot to maintain the live squad, pay those guys and the rest. Now you're saying there is no impact. There is an impact. If a whole chunk of those players gets injured or becomes unfit, remember the essence of the live squad is to cover up, to have a good squad, to have a good squad players where the quality in the bench and the quality on the field is almost at par. And also, most of these big guys, remember, they play a whole lot of both European competitions, and they spread out among all competitions. And as it progresses, they are in most of those competitions. Most of these smaller teams, before the end of December, most of them are no longer, maybe they are just playing their league matches. They are, maybe some of them are out of the FA, some of them are out of the Carling Cup. So you see them, this small squad concentrates basically in the league matches. But most of the big guys, some of them at times they're playing 4 or 5 competitions at the same time. So it will affect them when bulk of their players are injured. That is why they have large squad in the first place. So they have the right to complain. The World Cup being fixed at this point in time, really, we will enjoy it. We will enjoy the competition, but I really pity the teams. Really, they have the right to complain because it will disrupt a whole lot of things. And I know by the time the World Cup ends, you will see a whole lot of injury, including us now. We're going to see most bulk of our players are going for the World Cup also. So most time when most people, when they come back, we're going to see a whole lot of injuries, a whole lot of unfit players. And I really pity the teams, really.
Yeah, so I mean, listen, we're going to continue to have this conversation, around, the impact of the World Cup as we get closer. Listen, guys, it's been incredible. We've had some great conversations. We look forward to the Premier League. And listen, you know what to do, guys. Like, subscribe, share this, put your comments. Let us know, what segments do you like best? How can we keep improving, the show so that we can continue to bring you, great content. And so, before we go, just going to say, final words from you, Faze.
Great hanging out with you guys, as always. I've had fun doing this today. Same time next week, we will do this again. Thank you so much.
Final words from you, Femi.
Yeah, again, back to the Queen. Our love and our respect and our thoughts with the royal family, and we'll be celebrating the Queen in a big way this weekend. And bring on the Premier League, guys, and have some fun, everyone, this weekend. However you celebrate, it's a long bank holiday weekend for us as well in England. So hopefully we'll see you at any of the parades or whatever it is you're doing on Monday. Have a nice one.
Yeah, have a very good one, guys. Like, subscribe, share this with all your friends. And subscribe so that you can get, hit the bell button so you can get notifications when we upload, contents. We thank you very much for your support. And as always, we'll see you at the next, Game On show. Goodbye, everyone.